You are listening to Beyond the Wheel, a podcast about the people and ideas that drive the RV community forward.
Looking to get out there and stay out there? Battleborn Batteries lithium-ion batteries are here to power your RV, marine, and off-grid adventures. Designed as an easy drop-in replacement for traditional lead-acid batteries, these reliable solutions have 2 to 3 times the power, charge 5 times faster, are a fifth of the weight, and last 10 times longer. Offered in a variety of models in unique sizes and shapes, ranging from 50 amp hour to a robust 270 amp hour. And backed by a 10-year warranty. Battleborn batteries are built to fit your needs and power your experiences. On the road, on the water, and off the grid, reliable power is here. Check them out at battlebornbatteries.com.
Hi everyone. On today's Driver's Edition, we will be sharing a scary trip that Kenny took from Virginia to Washington, our thoughts on Flying J's going the route of electrification, and top news from the RV industry. So let's get this episode started.
Hey Sean, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Kenny. I'm good.
I am too. Now that I'm back at my home base, safe and sound.
Yeah, you've been on the road for what? A long time.
Just about 6 months. So
Yeah,
definitely a long time. This is the first time I'm back at the home base for 6 months, and I'm only home for 4 days, and then we go to Mexico. So
wow.
actually tomorrow, leave for Mexico tomorrow. But the trip that I mean there were 2 trips that I took recently that were not all that fun. So I went from Virginia to Washington, and then from Washington down to Arizona. And my first trip, like from Virginia to Washington, going through Wyoming on I-80 West. I've never had this happen before. I've been in very windy conditions, and they'll give you like a wind warning or something like that. But this was the first time that I was actually ordered off of the road. They had like the digital signs, and it would light up and say, if you were under 40,000 pounds and a high profile vehicle, you must exit at either an exit off ramp or a rest area. You were not allowed to travel on the highway because the wind was so bad. So I was getting 20-mile-per-hour winds, 25-mile-per-hour winds, which isn't hard. I mean, it's not fun, but you can drive in that. But the gusts were from 55 to like 75 miles an hour. I think actually they were between 45 and 75 miles per hour. And I was definitely feeling it. I've been hit with high winds before, and it will kind of like shift my RV over. But these winds felt different. I don't know how to explain it more than the fact that these winds felt like they were lifting me at the same time that they were pushing me. So even without that warning saying you had to, remove yourself from the highway, I was ready looking for somewhere to get off the highway because it was really scary. But, I was in that Rawlins area of Wyoming, and there isn't much out there. The exits are far apart from each other. Rest areas are far apart from each other. There are no little side roads to continue to travel. Like you literally would just have to get off the road and just stop somewhere and wait for this high wind warning to pass. It was scary. It was definitely scary.
Was there anything like when you pulled off the road into a rest area, was there any coverage from the wind, or you were still in the wind, you're just stopped?
I would say you're still in the wind, but stopped. And because the rest area is the way that they're lined up, they are lined up so that the wind is hitting you head on or from the back rather than from the side. You don't have that tippiness. And I did notice too, like while driving, and I'm not really sure why this would be. Maybe it's just more stable. You're not bouncing around as much. I did feel more stable slowing down in the high winds than if I were trying to do like 60 miles an hour. I slow down all the way down to like 35, 40 miles an hour. And I was kind of just following suit of the truckers. I figure they're professionals. They even weigh more than me. They were all slowing down to 35, 45 miles an hour. And those guys never slow down for anything. So I was like, well, there might be something to this. Maybe I should try slowing down too. So I started slowing down, and I was like, okay, I feel a little bit more stable. I should be okay. Hopefully I can make it to the rest area. Because not only was it, it wasn't like a warning that came up and said, oh, you must get off this exit due to high winds. They actually added on there, if you are caught driving on the highway during this time period, we will fine you $1,000 and possibly one night in jail, and I feel like there was and if you were to tip, of course, you're responsible for any cleanup. So they were making it very serious. They took it very serious, and it was a pretty long stretch. I think about 20 miles through Wyoming that had this warning area. So you're a little bit higher elevation, maybe 4 or 5,000 feet. Yeah, I didn't like it at all. So when I pulled over, I sat for about 2 hours.
Okay, so it was about 2 hours before you could get going again.
Yeah, and the only way to know this was I had to do a Google search for Wyoming in the Rawlins area. I might be saying that wrong. Rawlins? Rawlins? um, I was able to do a Google search and look up wind advisory in that area along I-80, and the state has a website, their own website, that will tell you this is the wind, this is the warning, these are the requirements that not everybody had to get off the road. The trucks, if they wanted to stay on the road, if they were over 40,000 pounds, they could. And that sign, like I said, was digital, and I would see it every once in a while, changed depending on where you were and what time you were driving through. Sometimes it said if you were over 55,000 pounds, sometimes it said if you were 40,000 pounds. So it adjusted for the weather, and that's what the website did as well. So I was able to sit and just wait. Unfortunately, for me, I'm sure there's probably some type of app that would have told me when it was safe to go back out on the road, but I literally just sat and just refreshed the screen over and over again until it said that the wind advisory has been lifted. And it's a tough area to be stuck in because I was looking at the weather, ahead, and it said, tomorrow was going to be just as windy as today. So I was like, man, if there's never a window opens up and I miss the window, I could be stuck here for 24 hours sitting in this rest area until I'm allowed to get back on the road again. Yeah, it was probably it had to be my most stressful drive, I would say. I've driven in a lot of bad weather and stuff like that, but I've never been in winds that strong before.
Were there other RVs pulled over with you?
Yeah, so I saw RVs. It's kind of funny in the sense that there were definitely RVs at the rest area, but then when the warning label was lifted and I got back up on the road on the highway, it was still windy. So it was still, I don't know if sketch would be the word for it, but it still wasn't a fun drive. It was just better than before. Like I felt more secure. I mean, I really felt like there were times that I was going to get blown off this road. But after the warning label or the warning advisory, and I got back on the road to start driving again, I remember seeing a lot of RVs pulled over to not just the side of the road, like down an exit ramp and just into like a little town. And they were just like parked at the bottom of that ramp. There would be like 5 or 6 of them. And I look at them and I'm already back on the road because the advisory was lifted. I was like, oh, maybe they don't know that the advisory is lifted. Maybe they didn't find that website and now they're sitting down there not realizing that they can get back on the road because you almost feel trapped. Like I was about to take a nap. I think I was talking to you actually when this happened. I was about to take a nap, or maybe I was texting you, and the advisory was lifted. I was like, oh, I can't take a nap now. I got to get back on the road while I'm still legally allowed to travel on. Like it was, I felt like I had to get out of that area. And after about an hour and a half of driving, I was down at a lower elevation. All the warning signs, the digital signs were gone by then. So, you weren't in a high wind area. People that maybe don't travel all across the country might not know this, but there are areas that they have permanent signs that say
Mhm.
crosswinds, high crosswinds in this area. It might say for the next 5 miles, it might say for the next 80 miles, but there are areas in the country that are always just always have this cross breeze, this cross wind, and sometimes it gets really bad. So I luckily, after about an hour to 1 hour and a half driving, got out of that windy section of the highway. And man, I just felt so good to be gone and out of there. I stopped shortly after that and went to bed. I stopped either at Cracker Barrel or probably Cracker Barrel. I think I did a lot of Cracker Barrels on that drive. It was scary. It was scary.
I think going in and out of Quartzsite, one
Mm-hmm.
particular direction has a lot of those
Yep.
signs up as well. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
wondering though, you have an RV GPS, right?
Yes.
But it
Yep.
didn't give you the warning.
So it tells me high winds up ahead, but it doesn't give me a warning like, oh, high winds up ahead. You have to exit.
Okay.
So I did find out. So this is a new law for that Wyoming area. It used to be before that if that warning light would turn on, it was your judgment whether or not you wanted to stay on the highway or not. But they were, what was happening was, this is what I found out afterwards, after I did some reading on it, is that so many people, I guess, had poor judgment and they continued to drive that they were causing so many accidents that they now have put in place that $1,000 fine and that it is now illegal to drive when those warning lights are on if you're under that weight limit. Yeah, apparently they were having a lot of issues and it's no longer up to your judgment. It's now their judgment. And if you're caught driving when those lights are on and you don't make all those requirements, then they will fine you. But yeah, apparently that area was a kind of known for it. So that's not the case everywhere. Like if you see warning lights in other states on other roads, then most likely it's not a, it'll say, I would imagine it's going to tell you just like they do now in Wyoming that this is, illegal to be on the road for you.
I can't believe us overconfident, arrogant American men would risk going in a high wind area.
Yeah, it's funny too because I will say probably too it happens like kind of quickly. Like I'm just driving along, and all of a sudden I start getting hit with this like high wind, and then I see the warning lights. But I'm already on the road, like. And I didn't feel like it was safe to pull over to a shoulder. I did think of it a couple times. I was like, well, maybe if I just pull over on the shoulder here, but I felt like I was being exposed to the high. Like if I stop there, I'm like, this is where I'm feeling this high wind. I don't think this is where I need to stop, and I don't necessarily fit very well on the side of a shoulder either. So I was like, I think I just got to keep going until I either hit an exit or hit a rest area. And I was so happy that I hit a rest area because I really didn't want to get off an exit and try to get into these. I mean, they're out in the literally middle of nowhere. There was nothing out at these places, and I was like, if I get off the exit, is there going to be room for me? So I was so happy that I found a rest area and was able to get off the road. Sabrina and I have purposely gotten off the road on our own, though, too. Like, there's been times that we've been in high wind and rain, and we're like, all right, we just don't think this is safe. And we pull over, and I'm sure there's plenty of people that would have just kept on going.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think we're a little too confident when we're driving.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes. And then even, that was from Virginia to Washington. And then even from Washington down to Arizona, I did hit a couple windy areas. Nothing too bad. Nothing like what I experienced. But I was surprised to see how much snow was up in Oregon already and Washington. And all those areas are chain up areas. So now when you're driving through those areas, you're supposed to be carrying chains when the lights are on. And I personally don't carry chains. I might look into chains. I hope never to be in an area again where I need chains. But the good thing about that is, so it was snowing, but the day before I left, the road was a chain up area. So I would not have been allowed to drive without the chains. Luckily, the day that I did leave, or 2 days after, I think it was 2 days after they had the roads cleared, and you were then allowed to drive without needing chains. And it was interesting to see. I mean, they had feet and feet of snow going through the Oregon mountains, coming down. Is it 90? It was before 97, so 97 coming through California, but before that, maybe it was 85 that I was on, and it was like feet of snow. It did start to snow a little bit. It was about 31, 32 degrees, but they do a great job of clearing, or I guess they're used to it. The roads were wet, but they weren't icy. Again, I wasn't super comfortable. Like it wasn't the most comfortable drive, but it wasn't horrible. It was just kind of like wet. And I'm driving slow. I'm doing like 40 miles an hour. Again, just to play it safe. And people are flying by me. I'm like, all right, you're probably local. Maybe you're used to this, 32 degrees and snowing and the road, but I'm not trusting it. And
Now,
I
the chains, do you have to, is it all the tires or just the drive
just
tires?
so what I was reading was just the drive tires. And it's funny, depending on where you were, the warning label would change. Like some of it would say snow tires or chains, just depending on where you were. But it did appear to be drive tires only for you to be legal. But apparently, the front tires were recommended also, but not.
What about if you have a tow vehicle?
No, it didn't say anything about a towed vehicle. And now I'm trying to remember, like, if I've ever seen a truck, like a truck trailer, chained up. Are there trailers chained up too for braking? I'm not sure. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either. And that, the same thing, that with the wind too. Like, it was only in certain sections, so you would have an area that said, okay, when these lights are flashing, pull over, chain up area ahead. So that's where you would chain up. And then once you're driving for a little while, then you would hit another area that said, okay, now you can pull over and take your chains back off. And then you drive like another 15 miles and be like, okay, now chain back up again. I'm like, do people really do that? Or do you just leave your chains on for the while you're going through this entire area? I can't imagine if people, although I guess if you're getting on and off at different exits, then there's different points for you to be able to pull over. I guess that's what it is actually. So I guess once you have your chains on, you're leaving your chains on until you're through that area completely. And it's really just for elevation, that it's never on a flat road that I saw that sign. It was only right before I was about to do, a hill climb, go from 1,000 feet to 6,000 feet, or, up to 8,000 feet at times. Yeah, it was not not the most fun driving. But I guess that's just what happens when you're driving in the winter in the RV up north. But it's cold everywhere. I mean, it's cold where you are. You're getting snow in Virginia. You had just 8 inches of snow the other day and you're in Virginia. And I think you said today you have a high of like 22, 25 degrees.
Yep. On this coming up Wednesday, it's supposed to be in the teens. So
Hmm.
it's not the snow's not melting. So and the roads are freezing every night. So
Yeah. So driving, winter RVing, if you're traveling, is challenging. My best advice is to take a look at the weather apps, take a look at the roads that you're crossing. Is there a lot of elevation changes? I don't know of a way to look to see if an area is a high wind area, but I know Wyoming, a lot of Arizona is. States that are kind of wide open will have these high wind areas. So you might just want to plan your route accordingly. And even for my trip from, Virginia to Washington, when I left Virginia, it was like 12 degrees, I think, was the temperature. And I stayed south as long as I could and then traveled up. So, I purposely went out of my way and traveled along I 40, I believe, for as long as I could before I reached up to I 80. Same thing when I left from Washington down to Arizona. Instead of kind of just a diagonal cross, I went down into California and tried to route my way around here. But even when I arrived here in Arizona, we're still going down into the 20s at night. It's 55, 60 during the day, but it's cold here too.
yeah, one thing I started doing recently is watching. There's some great YouTube channels of
Hmm,
people that cover like the nation as far as weather goes,
yeah,
and they're pretty good. So I got a couple that I watch. One in particular, like Max Velocity. He always gives like a 1 week to 2 week forecast. So if you are traveling, you can look and see what all the computer models are showing as far as weather goes to see if you should change your plans at all.
yeah. I think that's great advice. Definitely, don't look at just where you are, but look where you're going too, and see what it is and everything in between as much as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and then luckily, I mean, we are on homes on wheels. We can pull over. We can wait out a storm if you got water and everything, or maybe you find a campground. But a lot of these areas that I was driving through, the campgrounds were closed. Water was shut off because of too cold to have your water on. So prepare accordingly,
Yeah.
for sure. The other thing I wanted to talk about along this trip, and I have mixed feelings on. So I stay at a lot of Flying J's. Flying J's are one of my favorite places to stop for quick overnights. But what I'm finding is I have mixed feelings about this. Is that the Flying J's are doing their best to help electrification for EV travelers. Almost every Flying J I stopped at had a very nice EV station, and it was like a pull through station. So if you were towing a travel trailer and you needed to charge up, and we're going to be talking about this in a little bit further down in this episode, but if you were towing a travel trailer and you're towing that travel trailer with an EV, say like a Ford Lightning, the new Silverado, or a Rivian, you could actually pull into a station, charge up without having to disconnect your trailer, and then pull right through and keep on going, which I think is great. I own an EV. Sabrina owns the Mach E. We are fans of EV. and we're fans of seeing electric stations pop up. But what they're doing at the Flying J's is they're removing the RV overnight spaces to put the charge stations in. I'm like, oh, couldn't you have guys have just made some room? I know you can't just make room everywhere, but every single Flying J,
Mhm.
they're taking the RV spot. Like they're not even looking for. They must have just had a contract and looked at them and all and were like, well, I guess the easiest spot is going to be across these RV spaces.
And it's like not just a charge station, right? There's a cover over it and
Oh yeah,
everything,
it's
isn't there?
yeah. So it's more than just one. They got a cover over it. I would say it's probably got 4 to 8 areas that you can well 4 to 8 chargers, but the way they're lined up, if you pulled into one, you're blocking the other one. So I guess you could technically get, although I guess they do it because the charge station, your charging port on cars are in different locations. So I would say the ones that I saw mostly, you could probably pull 4 trucks with a trailer and charge them all at the same time, and there'd be space for them to do that. And I will say that most of the Flying J's are doing their best to not take every spot, but some of these Flying J's only had 4 spots to begin with, so they're all being taken. But some of these other places, of some of the other Flying J's that had maybe 6 to 8 spaces, they're leaving 2 of them, but those 2 will go really fast now. Like your chances of actually grabbing one is now like hitting the lottery. Man, I saw a number of how many. So it's the Flying J's all across the country. It's not even like it was in one certain area. I was seeing this in Virginia. I saw it in every state. I saw it in every state. Every Flying J seems to be installing these charge stations. So,
Is there room for like a tractor trailer to pull into those?
hmm, I don't. Well, I would say my height, I would have been okay. So I would imagine there was enough room because they don't even put a height on the, so it must have been high enough to be 14, 15, whatever it is, I think 15 feet. So yeah, I mean, I don't see why they couldn't, but it would be snug probably for turning radius wise.
Mm.
I mean, I have no problem, but I'm only 28 feet. I could easily pull through any one of them with my RV and Jeep. I would say even a 36-foot RV and towing could. But the trucks are, what are they, 80 feet?
53
53 trailer, right?
trailers.
And then yeah, I think all in they're right around 80s. Yeah, so I think it would have been tough. Like if they're going to start doing like the Tesla EV tractor trailers, I think it'd be a snug.
Mm. That's what I was thinking of because down like in Texas, they're testing those self-driving
Yeah.
electric trucks. If Flying J's are just trying to get ahead of the game, but maybe not.
And I would say it really depends on uh, where the Flying J is, like which one. Some of them were kind of snug, but others had plenty of space. And yeah, you could have easily pulled a tractor trailer through and gone right through, like the one here in Arizona. Tons and tons of space for a tractor trailer to go through. But then, like areas that are like just outside of cities where they're a little smaller, I mean, sometimes it's even snug for me to get in and out with my RV. So I would say they probably wouldn't be very truck friendly. So they're building all these on the auto side, nothing on the truck side. Most of the Flying J's and Loves and stuff like that are kind of divided that way. So, like I said, I don't know. I was happy to see more EV charge stations. Sabrina just did a drive with her EV from, let's see, Arizona to California and back, and she felt like that was pretty easy. She's about to go from Arizona to New Mexico, and I think that's going to be easy for her too. I mean, there is a lot of charging stations popping up now. Tesla's now allowing. We have a Ford Mach-E. Tesla's now allowing the Fords to charge. We just got our adapter in the mail, so now she'll even be able to charge at the Tesla charge station. So it's getting easier to travel by EV, and I mean, kudos, I guess, to Flying J that they are looking towards the future. I do have, I'm friendly with a couple that they're called Supercharged Camper. They have an F-150 Lightning and they tow their Winnebago with it. So this is probably something that they're very excited about because they used to always have to disconnect their travel trailer in a parking space, then back into one of the charge stations, charge up or pull forward into it and charge up, and then go back and hook up again. So the fact that
It's a
now they'll just be
hassle.
able to, it's a hassle. Now that they'll just be able to pull right through really makes things better for them. So,
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. We'll see how many people use them, I guess. And it's a partnership that they're doing with GM. So GM is the company that is installing the charge stations onto the properties of the Flying J's.
Here's a question for you, Kenny. Did you see a lot of them being used when you were at the Flying J's?
I wouldn't say a lot. Sometimes there was nobody at them, and then sometimes I would see like 2 or 3 vehicles charging, but I wouldn't say a lot.
Are
No.
those the only
And
charge stations they have there?
yeah.
Okay.
Well, the ones that I saw, some of the Flying J's that I've seen will also have, maybe they're not Flying J's. I do see a lot of Tesla charge stations at these big gas stations. Maybe they're not Flying J's, but I think so. And I'm wondering, I don't think I've ever seen both. I don't think I've ever seen Tesla charge stations and like a GM. So I wonder if there's like some type of contract that you can't have multiple conflicting companies or something like that. And I will say too, Sean, that the vehicles that I saw using the charge stations, they were the trucks, but they weren't towing at the time.
Okay.
They were usually on this trip I saw a lot of Ford Lightnings, and that was mostly what I saw using the charge stations was the Ford Lightnings. I didn't see, maybe I saw one Rivian when I was in Oregon charging, but that was about it. Yeah, so not a whole lot, not
Yeah.
yet anyway.
So these switching topics now, Kenny, these fires in California, you've actually seen the smoke from those where you live. They're
Yep.
really, really bad. Something really cool that National Indoor RV Center is doing is providing free stays for those evacuated at their Las Vegas and Phoenix NIRVC locations.
Yeah, I thought this was amazing. To be honest, it's really caught me off guard and something really nice. I saw this on Instagram last night. Brett, who we've had on the show, he's the founder and CEO, I believe, for the National RV Indoor Center. He had put out a post on Instagram. He probably put it on out on other social medias too, but he actually wrote. He said, I'm not gonna read this word for word. I apologize for not publicly communicating this sooner, but I'm happy to hear that many of you already knew exactly where to head as you evacuated. If you have evacuated from California due to the fires and need a place to stay, both our Las Vegas and Phoenix locations have availability to accommodate you. Keep your chin up and give us a call if you need a place to stay. The last thing we will ever do is try to profit from someone's misfortune or this crisis. Our available sites, along with the electricity used by those staying in them, will be free of charge. Please note they will be issued on a first come, first served basis. Mi casa es su casa. If you're already a member of the National Indoor RV Center, or need to become one who has been displaced, please call at 1 800 250 0635. You don't
I
have to
think it's
take that
1
number out.
800 250 6354.
And they just want you to call ahead so that they can coordinate with you and make sure that there's availability before you show up. And also, when you call, they'll be able to give you a security code to gain access to the property. And that was signed by Brett. So I thought that was like pretty cool to see a company putting people before profit through these tough times.
I think it says a lot about kind of the community of the RV industry that, anywhere you go with RVers, everybody's always willing to jump in and help out when you have a problem. And so, I mean, I think this is just showing how good that community is.
Yeah, I agreed, and that's exactly Sean what I wrote uh, to him on Instagram. I said, this is amazing, Sabrina and I. This made us feel so good, and it just shows just how strong the RV community is that you guys are willing to do this. It's really amazing. I thought I felt compelled to write something, and leave a comment saying just how much we appreciate them doing that for people. Because the fires at the time of this recording, I mean, I think we heard on NPR that they are only at about under 10% contained. And I bet you by the time this airs, they're hopefully headed back to being rebuilt. But I wouldn't be surprised. They're really having a problem. So
And it's a very populated area. It's not like it's
yeah,
parks or, national parks or BLM land or anything like that. It's like LA.
yeah,
So whole neighborhoods are just being destroyed.
yeah. And it's that wind again, that
Yeah.
crazy, crazy out of control wind. But Yeah, so that was really nice of Brett and the National RV. I know they're not doing it for recognition, but I hope they are recognized in some way by somebody, maybe RVIA or some. I hope somebody looks at that and says, and then I think they should be recognized for it. I think it's a really nice thing that they're doing. Hopefully, more people than just us recognize them for doing that good deed.
Yeah, it's really awesome. And he seemed like a really genuine person when we had him on the show, too.
Very straightforward, no nonsense type of straight shooter type of person. Yeah, I agree. Like he seemed like a pretty good dude. I guess switching back gears to electric, maybe I should have had this in a different order, but the company Pebble creates an electric trailer, and they've been talked about. What do you think, Sean? At least 3 years,
At least, yeah.
but they're finally set to start making deliveries this year, this spring, 2025 spring. We're going to actually see Pebble making deliveries on their 25-foot travel trailer. The unique thing about this travel trailer, when they say it's all electric, typically, I believe anyway, when a company says that their vehicle is all electric in the RV industry, what that usually means is that there's no generator and there's no propane.
Right.
But these guys actually are taking that one step forward, because you got to keep in mind that this is a travel trailer, that they are actually putting drive motors into their electric travel trailer. Now, that the base model, Sean corrected me actually earlier, the base model does not have drive motors. So their all electric base model is a travel trailer with no propane, no generator, but doesn't have the drive motors. But it does have the 45 kilowatt lithium battery. It still has the solar, the one over 1,000 watts of solar, and it's using I believe that one's still using regenerative braking to put power back into its own battery bank. And that model, so I had a sticker shock when I read the number, and Sean corrected me. Sean's sticking up for them. So the base model for that vehicle, and it is, I will say, it's very nice. It's aluminum, looks very clean, lots of windows, very modern. But the base model of that vehicle is 109,000, and it is a bumper pull. It's not like a fifth wheel. I kind of looked at that. I was like, wow, 109,000 for a bumper pull. When I look at it, it almost reminds me not really of a Brinkley, but very similar, streamlined, very modern looking. And a Brinkley is a fifth wheel, and you can do a fifth wheel for about 100,000 high end. So I was like, man, I don't know, 109 sounds like a lot for a travel trailer. But then I'll let you tell people what you told me, Sean, that I was shocked by.
So I immediately thought of Airstream, so we looked up the 25-foot international Airstream trailer, and its base price is 110.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I had no idea that Airstream was that expensive. I know they're very nice, and I know they have like a following. I didn't realize that their pricing had gotten that high. I didn't know they were over $100,000 for a bumper pool travel trailer, no slides, and I know it's aluminum. I know they hold their value and they're put together well, but I just was like, wow. It
And
makes me look
that's
back.
with those aren't all electric, I don't think.
No, they're not. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, you still get your propane, and no generator, I guess, comes with them, but I guess they're made so that you could bring a generator. You'd have to, because you don't have the battery and the solar to go along with it. You'd have to get a generator with it. So I think when you compare it to me personally, I haven't walked through a Pebble yet. I hope to walk through one, because me personally, looking at the two prices, I'm like, oh, 110 versus 110 for a 25, both 25 feet long, both aluminum, both no slides, but one's got a 45 kilowatt lithium battery with solar and regen braking. I was like, I'll be able to off grid from this right from stock, right from the production line. I don't have to do anything to this. It's ready for off grid living. So it makes. I'm not spending that for either one of them. To be clear, if I had,
I will say, Kenny, as far as I haven't been in either the Lightship, which is the other EV
I
trailer,
have been in that one. Yeah, that's
or the
nice.
Pebble, but just from looking at the outside of them, I think the Pebble has a much more appealing look to it than the Lightship does.
I think so too. Yeah, I think so too. But they do offer, which I thought was pretty cool, and I think Airstream's working on this also. So maybe there's more maybe this is a better comparison than I originally thought, or maybe they're more competitive than I originally thought because Pebble has what's called the Magic Pack, and with the Magic Pack, you get a dual motor drivetrain. It's going to up the price to $135,000. But what that drivetrain is going to do, as you're towing with your vehicle, whether that be an ICE vehicle or an EV, it's helping you along. So you're not using as much gas or you're not using up as much of your range uh, when you're driving. So it's an interesting concept. I talked to the people at Lightship, and they wouldn't tell me they do the same thing, but they wouldn't tell me how they do that because my question was, well, how does the vehicle know how much push to give you at certain times? And they told me that they were able to communicate back and forth, but they didn't tell me how they could communicate. They didn't want to share with me their secret of how that communication works. Because I'm thinking, Sean, and I tow my car and my Jeep, which never pushes, and you're towing your trailer, it never pushes. But I'm wondering, all right, I'm approaching a turn, I'm making a turn. How does it know not to be pushing me while I'm trying to make a corner or a turn? Or how does it know not to push me while I'm going downhill? Just let me coast along. Or there must be a pretty intricate way for the vehicles to know when to push and not to push. Like you don't want to be driving and being pushed all the time. So I wonder how they work that out. I'm gonna try to reach out to Pebble and see if we can get somebody on the show. Again, they're probably not going to share how that's done either, but they'll maybe share a little bit of how that's done. But I'm really interested in hearing like how does this know not to push all the time? When is it pushing? When isn't it pushing? Is it one set limit on a push? Like is it very minimal, or is it adjustable? Like is it sometimes pushing harder than other times? If you're on a highway doing 60, is it pushing harder than if it was on a back road doing 30?
I
Um,
imagine it's got some artificial intelligence built
it's
into
got
it.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I feel like it would have to. But yeah, they
The other cool thing about this base model, Kenny, that I thought was really cool is that most trailers don't have is automatic leveling,
mm,
which yeah, I don't
does
know of many travel trailers that have that.
even at that price point.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it seems like a lot of money. Yeah, you're right, because usually it's like a push button for each,
Yeah.
like you're doing it either pushing a button or you're using it. I've seen a lot of people with like impact guns and they're lowering the jacks down that way.
But this
You're
is
right.
one
One
touch.
touch. Yeah, I've never
Yeah.
seen that on any travel trailer. I've never seen that on any travel trailer. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so it does have nice features. I'm hoping. So I saw a light ship at an overland show. I'm hoping Pebble brings theirs out to an overland show. I don't think that's probably the market for them. Just like I don't really think the light ship was really the market for overland either. But where else could we possibly see? Maybe at the Hershey show next year.
Yeah.
Maybe something like that. I hope we get to tour one and walk through one and talk to them. And like I said, hopefully we can try to get them on the show to talk to us. But the other neat thing about that, I forgot to mention about that dual motor drivetrain. Not only is it saving you fuel and stuff like that while you're on the road, but when you get to an area, whether it be boondocking or at a campground, you'll be able to disconnect your vehicle, step outside your vehicle, and drive by remote, drive the trailer into a spot. And I was thinking, man, that would probably be really helpful at Walt Disney World
Oh,
at
yeah.
at Fort Wilderness campsites. Those sites are narrow to kind of back in, and I see people have the biggest blowout fights at Fort Wilderness. Husbands and wives like getting out of their vehicle and be like, "I am turning it that way." Like, so the fact that the couple can get out of the vehicle and look at a situation and just back the thing in.
Yeah, it
To
has it comes with like an iPad mini that you can
oh, is that
do.
how it works?
Yeah, you
Oh,
can even like turn on the AC and stuff before you actually arrive, so it's climate
oh,
controlled for you when you
yeah, because
get in. So that's a pretty cool feature. I'm not a
that's
big
nice.
fan of having a lot of tech in my RV, but it's that's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's cool. The tech, I kind of like tech stuff. I mean, yeah, I'm okay with tech stuff. I'm okay with tech stuff as long as there's some type of redundancy that I still am a physical button person. Like, we can kind of go back to Sabrina's EV. everything in Sabrina's Mach E is done on this digital screen. If this digital screen would ever go out, we wouldn't be able to turn on the AC, the heat, the radio. I mean, everything is built into this one unit with no backup. Well, I guess we could turn the temp. I guess we could set the temperature with our app on our phone, but I'm not even 100% sure that we can do that after the car started. I feel like that's a pre conditioning thing that we can do. If everything is controlled through that one iPad, I probably wouldn't like it. Like if there is no physical button backup, if there's no, I can't access it maybe from my phone app, or just say the app itself, it's not so much that the device that it's on is out, but the actual app is down in some way, and there's no way for me to, where that to use my level to turn my power on. I won't like that. I like the redundancy still. Physical buttons. I'm still a fan of physical buttons. I mean, I drive a 2001 Jeep Wrangler. You got to be okay with physical buttons.
And then one thing that actually lowers the price a little bit, depending on if it's available to you or not, is that all their models are eligible for the $10,000 tax credit.
Really?
Yeah,
For a recreational vehicle, that's
yeah,
surprising. Well, that's nice. Now that's cheaper than the
yeah.
Airstream. But I wonder, this being the first year, and I don't even know how the Airstream world works too much in the fact that like how much negotiating is there when purchasing an Airstream. I would imagine there's probably not going to be a lot of negotiating with the Pebble, with it being the first year. I mean, we don't know production numbers, how many they're building or anything like that. So there might not really be, you know, typical RV is what 25% off MSRP is usually what you wind up paying. If you're really good at negotiating, maybe you get 30% off of the MSRP. But yeah, that's nice though. 10,000. Yeah, I didn't realize that they would do that for a recreational vehicle. That's great.
Yeah.
And speaking of Airstream, I did not plan this one, Sean, but Blue Compass RV expands with Airstream acquisition. Do you have Blue Compass in Virginia? Do you see Blue Compass popping up?
I think there's one on 95, but I'm not 100% sure if
Uh,
it's
90.
if it's in Virginia or not.
That would make sense. So along 95.
But I have seen one on 95.
Okay. I've been seeing these pop up. I saw them in Washington when I was up in Washington. And it says that it's the fastest growing RV retailer in the US. They now have over 100 locations across, the 33 states. I think the way that they're building, I think they're kind of gunning towards Camping World is my impression is that they're trying to maybe not be Camping World, but beat Camping World. Like I think they want to be as big as Camping World is. They're considered the number one Airstream dealer in the world for 5 years in a row. I don't like when I hear like a big company takes on. So I believe that the New Mexico Airstream was like privately owned. So I don't like when a big corporation, I guess, takes that over. But I mean, the fact that Blue Compass is rated number one for Airstream, maybe it's not a bad thing that they bought the New Mexico Airstream. I don't know.
I wonder if there's an Airstream dealer it used to be part of the Lazy Days in Tucson. I wonder if that one's
Oh
still
yeah.
part of Lazy Days or if it's its own thing or if it's Blue Compass now.
I feel like Lazy Days is a pretty strong brand, pretty strong company. I think they would really fight them. But I mean, I guess Blue Compass, they must be offering better than market value, I would guess, to be able to buy so many dealerships so fast. Like they must be going in with some pretty impressive offers for these companies. But I feel like Lazy Days is a pretty well known brand too. And they also are a pretty large franchise. So I would see them trying to fight that. Yeah, that's a good question, Sean. I wonder. I bet you it's still Lazy Days. I bet maybe somebody in the comments can let us know.
Yeah.
We'd like hearing from you guys. Let us know in the comments. Have you been to the Lazy Day Airstream? Do you think it's staying the Airstream, or I mean, do you think it's staying as a Lazy Days, or have they already switched over to this Blue Compass? I think Blue Compass is a good company for us to keep an eye out. I didn't realize that they have already grown to over 100 locations. They are growing fast. But I have seen them popping up. And then we also wanted to congratulate KOA. KOA has been on the show in the past. I'm a big fan of KOA. Sean's a
I
fan of
am too.
KOA. Yeah, we both enjoy our stays. I always say, it's just KOA is very similar to other campgrounds, but But what I like about KOA is that I've never had a bad experience at one. I've been at a ton of KOAs and they're always good, some exceptional. So but I've never had a bad experience. They've always been good. I use their app often. I think their app is great. We noticed that they were just recognized as best in category in the recreation sector for 2025 for franchise business. I think it's pretty amazing. They ranked 43 in all franchises, but number one for recreation. And I don't doubt that at all. Every KOA that we go to, the staff is always top notch. And I know that KOA does a lot of training with their staff. I feel like we get a very similar feel with all the KOAs that we go to. Everybody's nice. Everybody's been great. I know that one in Tucson is one of your favorite KOAs. It's one of my favorite KOAs. I mean, they have a lot of amenities. You got the pools, hot tubs, but then they even have a restaurant and a bar right on property. They have some cool camping sites with that are like 2 level where you can park your RV, and then a second level where you can go up and sit on a deck. It's a really nice KOA. But then you also have KOAs that are journeys that are just meant to be your overnight spot. But even they still have pools, a great staff. Every one of them has a dog park. You'll never be at a KOA without a dog park. Some have hiking trails. I mean, I really enjoy the KOAs. They're my favorite campgrounds outside of Walt Disney World. So I was happy to see that they're being recognized and that they ranked number one in franchises for this category. I think that was great.
Yeah, and it's nice for us. What we like about it is that when you're driving and you don't have a particular place in mind that you want to stay, you kind of know that you're going to get a consistent level of service and a consistent type of spot with a KOA.
Yeah, that's a
So,
good way to say it.
there's not many surprises that we've seen at KOAs. You kind of always know what you're going to get.
Yeah, yeah, that consistent. Yeah, consistently good. That is a good way to say it. Another way to stay though, Sean uses this company here, but I admit I still haven't signed up for it, even though I hear nothing but good things about him as Harvest Host. And we had Joel Howland on, I guess about 4 months ago, 3 months ago. He sat down with us and talked to us about them acquiring escapees, but they're now starting to make, and he kind of told us, he was going to make changes. He wasn't going to make changes that would make anybody angry, but they are rolling out new changes for 2025. Mostly, maybe changes isn't the right word. Maybe more like updates, redesign, and things like that. I guess which are still changes, but they sound better that way. So they're doing like improve the website and the membership portal. You'll see those changes in March of this year. The upgrade's also going to be a more user-friendly interface, making it easier to access community groups and events and resources. They're also going to integrate the escapees and the boondockers welcome accounts into one unified dashboard. So I think what they're trying to do, my impression is just try to maybe like streamline everything, that you're not like going, well, okay, I'm a Scapies member, so I'm going here. If you're a member of everything, I guess, I'm not going here for that, and now I'm not going there. Everything's going to be maybe under one site. Even the Harvest Host app, some of the escapee benefits will be right in your Harvest Host app, even just to try to. Like I said, I think they're just trying to streamline everything, not make huge changes, just make things easier to navigate.
Yeah, Joel seems like the type of person that wants to make everything easier for everybody, not complicate things, but make it better, more user friendly, more enjoyable experience, I guess. So I'm looking forward to seeing the changes.
Yeah. And I think too, like you go back to that episode where we were chatting with him on the show, and he said on the show the big part of why he wanted escapees was for the social experience. So somebody that's going to purchase escapees for the social experience isn't going to want to make those people angry. They'll buy a company for the social experience just to piss everybody off. So I'm pretty sure that they're going to be very careful with how they move forward and what changes they make. But I also saw, and I think he kind of touched on it a little bit, Sean, that he has, I can't remember the name of it, but that he has a campground partner or campground discount club. And it looks like Harvest Host is going to kind of expand their campground network. So the Harvest Host to me has always been farms and wineries,
Wineries.
breweries, golf courses, and things like that. But he's going to somehow get Harvest Host involved with about 1,500 campgrounds across the U.S. and offer a discount at those campgrounds. So kind of expanding. Not only is he still busy with escapees and expanding, but it looks like he doesn't forget about Harvest Hosts either, and he still works hard at the Harvest Host side of things as well.
What's funny is he seems so chill when we talk to him,
I know.
but he must, I mean, he seems to have a lot going on.
I would imagine he's always going, but he does. When you speak to him, he's very relaxed. He doesn't have the typical, what do they call that, a type A personality? But obviously, he must be a type A personality.
It's funny when I just thought of this, Kenny. I had a rough week at work this week, and today I slept until like after 11 o'clock. I can't imagine keeping up the pace that he must have to. I mean, because he doesn't just have these companies, he has other camping related companies too. So he must be going all the time.
But he does say, like, when we talk to him, he tries to build his team around RVing. He hires people within the RV, not just the industry, but people RVers. He hires RVers to work with them. So he does have a team working with him, Sean. I will say that you don't have a large team underneath you working, helping you out. So hopefully he does get a lot of help on a weekly basis and still, because he even said, he wants to be able to, he RVs. He still wants to be able to get out and vacation and take his RV out too. So I agree though. I wonder, like, is he, when he says that he goes out on vacations and RVs, is he like really not getting emails? Is he not responding? I can't see him relaxing that much to that level.
Last thing we wanted to mention was something pretty cool that Dragonfly Energy sent out, who, of course, sponsors the podcast. They partnered with the John Lennon Educational Tour Bus, which the one that I guess there's several of these tour buses across the world, but the one they sponsored is a Prevost tour bus, but they've completely modified it to have two recording studios in it. And so what they do is they take it along to different areas and they partner with the local communities. Like in Reno, they did it with Big Brother and Big Sisters of Northern Nevada and Jeremy Renner's Renovation Foundation, and brought in some youth from different communities. And they actually, over 2 days, wrote and recorded a song, a music video, and then debuted it at a big like creative arts festival in Reno. And they made a video of it that they put out this week. It was filmed, it looked like in July of 2024, but they put out a video this week. It's amazing because this whole bus is powered, the recording studios and everything are powered by lithium batteries, Battleborn batteries with 2,400 watts of solar on the top. Just incredible to give these opportunities to kids that, a lot of communities don't have recording studios that, kids can go to and learn about that whole music making process. It was nice to see that Dragonfly was part of that support of the John Lennon tour bus. And it's great to see another example of the RV community kind of helping out wherever they can. And this is a great opportunity to give kids a chance to really get a feel for music production and creativity and working together, teamwork, all that stuff. And so we'll link the video in the show notes. It's really cool to watch because you see these kids go from nothing written on paper to having a fully produced music video. And Jeremy Renner's in there helping them with the creating the music. You see Dennis in there playing guitar. Tyler's in there talking about the stuff. And if, for those that don't know, Tyler's won some Emmys for some of the movies that he's created. So he he's a creative person, so it's great to see him being involved in that as well. So I just thought it was really cool to see.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think Battleborn does a lot as far as giving back to community and things like that. I mean, I'll never forget during the pandemic, Sabrina was working at hospitals, had trouble getting masks. And Battleborn Batteries had, I don't know why they had so many masks, but they had masks. And they, for free, shipped us a case of masks for Sabrina to use while she was in the hospital. No questions asked. They didn't want anything for it. They didn't even want us to tell anybody about it. They didn't want us to share it on social media. They were like, no, this is just for you guys. Don't be promoting this. We don't need the recognition. I think Battleborn Batteries does that often, like behind the scenes and in the public, has donated a lot to different foundations and do help out as much as they can, especially locally as well. So I think that's great. I haven't seen the video yet, but I'm going to check it out for sure.
Yeah, yeah, it's really, really interesting to see how it all comes together so fast.
And I think Jeremy Renner, I think he is a musician also, right? Does he? I think
Yeah,
he has a band as well,
yeah,
right? So okay, so when you were describing the video and that he was in there contributing to the music itself as well, not just the build of the vehicle, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that he is musical also. He does have a band and stuff, so that's cool. It sounds like a fun video too to see.
yeah, yeah. It was cool. It was cool. It's a YouTube video. We'll link to it. It was interesting. I enjoyed it.
And it's cool that Dennis was in it too, because Dennis is very musical also. Whenever we see Dennis at the office, he's got his guitar right there in the office just in case he wants to play something. And for anybody that doesn't know, Dennis is the CEO of Dragonfly Energy, and he's a very laid back type of person. He's very nice. And I could definitely see him being involved in a project like this, like up close and personal type of
Yeah, yeah, and he
thing.
he always says that he wanted to be like a rock star.
Yeah. He's still a rock star, just not maybe musically. He's a rock star in the RV industry. Well, everybody, I think that's it for today's episode. But before you go, could you take a moment to leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast platform? I know it might sound repetitive. You hear me saying this all the time, but it really does help us grow the podcast. It makes it easier for new listeners to find us. So anything you can do that way, either a rating, review, or both, we really appreciate it. So thanks for tuning in and safe travels, everybody. Looking to get out there and stay out there? Battleborn Batteries lithium ion batteries are here to power your RV, marine, and off grid adventures. Designed as an easy drop in replacement for traditional lead acid batteries, these reliable solutions have 2 to 3 times the power, charge 5 times faster, are a fifth of the weight, and last 10 times longer. Offered in a variety of models in unique sizes and shapes, ranging from 50 amp hour to a robust 270 amp hour, and backed by a 10-year warranty. Battleborn batteries are built to fit your needs and power your experiences. On the road, on the water, and off the grid, reliable power is here. Check them out at battlebornbatteries.com. With the complexity of all the systems in an RV, I always say it's not if something's going to break, but a matter of when is something going to break. That is why I think an extended warranty for RVs is so important. We first interviewed wholesale warranties back in 2019 and immediately became impressed with how their policies worked, such as you can take your RV to any licensed repair shop, including mobile repairs. They also have personalized service plans, making sure you are getting the right policy for your needs. And if you think your RV is too old for a policy, you might be surprised to hear that RVs up to 20 years old can still be approved for a policy. That is more age lenient than most RV parks I've stayed at. Go to wholesalewarranties.com/beyond the wheel or click the link down below in our show notes to get your free quote today.